The Atlanta Hawks have some decisions. Yes, they have some decisions to make. What do they do going forward? And in this video, I'm going to highlight one of their, I would say, kind of big decision, and that's at the center position. Now, a lot of people are linking them to the #1 overall pick, and a lot of people have them selecting Alex Sarr. That means there needs to be some void with the current centers on the current roster for the Atlanta Hawks. Now, on the roster, they have Bruno Fernando, they have Clint Capella, and they have Onyeka Okongwu. And in this video, I'm going to highlight if and what should the Atlanta Hawks trade for Onyeka Okongwu if they need to move on for him. Now, there's only a couple situations where I think they will move on for Onyeka Okongwu. Sources have come out and said that he's on the not on the short list. Basically, they don't want to get rid of him, but if they have to, they will. Now, in this situation, here's what I'm thinking is probably the most prime situation for getting rid of Onyeka Okongwu. #1, if the Atlanta Hawks select Alex Sarr, and 2, they don't really find a trade partner for Clint Capella, they can say, hey, maybe we can have Clint Capella stay on the roster at that $22 million. We'll sign Alex Sarr. That gives us 2 centers that can be pretty good on the team. And then after Clint Capella's contract expires after next year, we kind of let him walk. We prep Alex Sarr and then get a backup center for Alex Sarr. Now, I think that's the most likely situation, especially when it comes to Onyeka Okongwu, who wants starting minutes. And if we move forward with Alex Sarr, I don't know how many starting minutes he's going to get. Now, quickly in this video, I'm going to go ahead and tell you. So, trade scenarios for Onyeka Okongwu. #1, on the screen now, I have the Hawks trading with the Golden State Warriors. It would be Onyeka Okongwu for Andrew Wiggins, and we would give up Onyeka Okongwu and 2 second-rounders. Now, I think this makes sense in both cases. #1, it gives the Warriors a cheaper center who is young and athletic. I think when it comes down to it, we can see the Golden State Warriors are trying to get younger. They're trying to get off some of these older contracts, and especially with them in a luxury tax, they're looking for cheaper players who can play. For instance, Jonathan Kuminga. And if you bring in Onyeka Okongwu, he's athletic. He's honestly more athletic than Kevon Looney. He gets just as many rebounds as Kevon Looney, and he plays better defense than Kevon Looney. That's a win-win for both situations. Now, if you move to the Hawks side, why do we want Andrew Wiggins? There's one thing that the Atlanta Hawks need to help whatever point guard they go with going forward. They need athletic wings who can score the basketball. And I think Andrew Wiggins fits the bill, and if we can get him for only giving up Onyeka Okongwu, I think that's a win-win for both parties, to be completely honest. Second trade would be Onyeka Okongwu traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Josh Giddey and 2 second-round picks. I think that this works for OKC because they're looking for their center of the future. They kind of haven't found that player, and I think Onyeka Okongwu kind of fits in with their system. He's a very athletic center who allows them to continue to play small ball. He can step out and shoot at 3 from time to time, and it doesn't mess up their spacing. And I think he plays well along with Chet Holmgren. Now, in reverse, like I said, this situation only happens with the Atlanta Hawks saying we're going to go with Alex Sarr for the future, and we really don't need 3 centers on the roster. And because of this, I think we can get some return in Josh Giddey. I think his last year in Oklahoma City was like an outlier. I think he's a better player than him. He's 6'8", wing, who can shoot, who can pass, and he is an athletic threat that can play defense, a big wing that the Atlanta Hawks need. And getting those 2 second-round picks, those ultimately can turn to a late first if we trade it with the right people. And we've given up a bunch of picks for DeJounte Murray, so it'd be good to get some back in return. So I think this fits for both teams. A lot of you will probably believe in the comments, we're giving up way too much for Onyeka. We're not getting enough in return for Onyeka, but if we got to get off of him just to bring in room for Alex Sarr, I think this would be a pretty decent trade. Third trade. Now, this one may be a lot of people may be up in uproar, but it will be with the Spurs. It will be Jeremy Sohan and 2 second-rounders for Onyeka Okongwu. I think this helps the Spurs because it allows them to have a player that fits well with Wemby. Wemby is a tall, big, I wouldn't even call him big, tall forward, but it allows you to have an athletic center who's kind of undersized, but who can fit with Wemby. They can play off of each other, and I think that works down there. It gives San Antonio some talent. And then on the other side, I keep going to young, athletic wings that can help the Hawks play defense. And I think Jeremy Sohan fits the bill. He's also a younger player who can average, 11. I think he's been averaging 11 at San Antonio, but I feel like he can average more with a system change. And I think with the 2 second-round picks, continue to give us back picks because we're going to need it in the future because we gave up a lot for DeJounte Murray. So I think if we're able to trade one of our point guards, get maybe a superstar wing, and then maybe Jeremy Sohan to either start or come off the bench, I think that's a win, especially if we decide to move Onyeka Okongwu to make room for Alex Sarr. Last trade, which is pretty probable. There's a lot of teams that are interested in Onyeka Okongwu, is what I'm hearing, but the Pelicans are the most, especially with their center position in extreme question. They didn't re-sign Valanciunas, or they're probably not going to re-sign Valanciunas, and they need a young athletic center to take the bill and to grow with them. And I think Onyeka Okongwu may be the guy for them. Now, in return, what do we need? I keep going back to it. We need young athletic wings who can score the ball. And I think within this trade, we would give up Onyeka Okongwu and AJ Griffin, and back we would get Larry Nance and Dyson Daniels. Now, a lot of you in the comments are going to say, hey, bad trade. We love AJ. Well, unfortunately, his trade value has diminished because our coach doesn't play him week after week. And so maybe last year when he was averaging 12, 14, we should have got more from him. But right now, he doesn't have that much trade value. So I think this is a pretty fair trade. Number one, we get Larry Nance, a veteran power forward who can score at an elite clip. He can step in and start if we have injuries. But also we get Dyson Daniels, which I think is the big one in this. Dyson Daniels could develop into a prime 3-and-D kind of guy. He's always known for his defense. His offensive game is starting to develop a little bit more. And I think for the future, he can be a guy that we really need and really rely on. He kind of reminds me a lot of like that OG Anunoby kind of guy, where if you have him on the team is definitely better going forward. And I feel like he can keep developing that offensive game. He can become that guy who we rely on to play along with whoever we have. So those are my 4 trades for Onyeka Okongwu. Like I said, these are trades based upon if we need to clear space for Alex Sarr. If Clint Capella gets traded, then these are invalid. This probably won't happen. But if the Atlanta Hawks say, hey, we want to keep Trey loves Capella, we want to get Alex Sarr, but we want to have Capella on the team so Alex Sarr can develop and then become that starter next year, you got to get rid of some people. And I think Onyeka Okongwu is not going to be happy with sharing the minutes with not only Clint Capella, but Alex Sarr. And because of that, I think the Atlanta Hawks could potentially trade him. And because of that, here are the trade scenarios as of today that I think we can get from him. But if you agree with me, if you don't agree with me, a lot of you will disagree with me and say we're giving up too much to trade Onyeka Okongwu. But I'm telling you, we're going to have to need to get off of him to get and bring in more value coming in. And I think all of these trades bring in the one thing that we need: young athletic wings who are able to play make and score. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please do me a favor, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. If you want to see more videos like this, and if you want to see more quote-unquote bad trade scenarios that people say I put together, check this one out right here. And like always, peace.